Dan, this will have been the first Weird Al album to be released since you and I became friends.
Yeah, this album came out in the summer of 99. That's like me going into my sophomore year of high school, and I think you were in your junior year of high school.
Right. Our family got our first internet-capable PC in 1997.
Me too.
Buttface will probably never have heard of this. It's kind of obscure, but a video game came out that both of us kind of liked called, what was it? Final Fantasy VII?
Oh, yeah. We're hanging out in FNet on hashtag, I can't say hashtag, it's pound. It's the pound sign.
Channel.
Pound FF7.
Yeah, we were hanging out with all the Chatroom Yakkers.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Making our websites.
Writing fan fiction.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Building little MIDI jukeboxes.
I dare not know what your guys' GeoCities looked like.
Oh, mine was great. I had like a little animated rainbow horizontal bar separating the sections. So Running with Scissors was the album that came out. It came out that summer, and I was working at the ice cream store, and I would go in at 6:30 in the morning and start getting everything set up and start making the day's batches and things. And I would listen to this album over and over and over.
You were lucky. I was working at a grocery store and I was subjected to the music, and this was the summer of Sixpence None the Richer.
Ooh.
And I'm sure they're perfectly fine people in that band. But if I ever have to hear There She Goes Again, or that other song that they did that they played constantly on that music, it's just...
You can't possibly have any hastily made history for us this week, though, right?
That's right. Weird Al's Running with Scissors, released on June 28th, 1999, mere days after getting out of school for summer vacation. This is Al's first album for Volcano Records, which in between Bad Hair Day and this, acquired Scotti Brothers. It was recorded at Santa Monica Sound Recorders as per usual, engineered by Tony Papa, assisted by Frederick Sarhagen and Jeff Moses, except for the Weird Al Show theme, which was engineered by Richie Wise. Material was recorded in several sessions. Weird Al theme was in 97 because the show came out before this album, but the rest was in October 1998 through April 1999, and some of these things got in by the wire. Critical reception at the time was generally positive. It peaked at 16 on the Billboard charts, went gold and platinum, but it was not as hot or as high of a seller as Bad Hair Day, and none of the singles officially charted. On top of that, there was no Grammy nominations at all. Now, Ricky, did you ever happen to stick your CD into a CD-ROM player?
I did, and this, because they tried to include some kind of media that would cause the CD to not play in some computer CD players properly.
This was actually a dual mode CD because they actually had extra content like videos and links to websites and things that you could get if you popped it into a particular computer. Not all CD releases had this, but that was kind of the hip new thing at the time.
I can't remember if I had any specific CDs that did that, but I do kind of miss the multimedia connection that you get that is just lost in streaming these days.
Returning personnel. We've got, of course, Weird Al, Jim West, Steve J, and John Bermuda Schwartz. Warren Looning returns for trumpets on the Weird Al theme and Polka Power. Joel Peskin on clarinet, Tommy Johnson on tuba, Ruben Valterra on keyboards. Kim Bullard returns for keyboards on Germs. And Tress McNeil returns for voiceover on Pretty Fly for a Rabbi and Jerry Springer. Now, we didn't have any new personnel last week, but we do this week. We've got Bill Reichenbach Jr. for trombone on the Weird Al theme. He's a session trombonist, and if you're wondering why that song felt so good, it's because he's played with Chuck Mangione. Lee Thornburg for trumpet on your Horoscope for Today and Grapefruit Diet. He's a session musician, best known for the group Tower of Power. He also played on the Supertramp albums Nobody Likes, and he will play with Al in the future. Next, we've got Tavis Wirtz and Dan Regan for trumpets on Horoscope for Today. If those names sound familiar, that's because both of those guys were in Real Big Fish.
Really?
Yes, we got ringers on this album.
Ooh.
Tom Evans for sax on Horoscope and Grapefruit Diet. He currently plays sax for the Eagles, but he's also played with Rod Stewart, Carly Simon, and Engelbert Humperdinck. Next, we've got Marty Rifkin for steel guitar on Truck Drivin' Song. He's played a lot with Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty. Next, Tom Sauber for fiddle on Eddie Vedder. He's a bluegrass and Cajun master. He's appeared in film and TV like The Long Riders and Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, and his website has a great quote. He has even appeared on a recent Weird Al Yankovic recording.
oh, buddy. You tried.
And then we've got Pat Sober for banjo on Truck Driving Song. If that name sounds familiar, that's because he's Tom's son. And last but not least, Mary Kay Bergman provides voiceover on Pretty Fly for a Rabbi. You might know Mary Kay as Daphne and all the female voices in South Park. So now that we've gone through all the history, we're up here with the album art, where we get Al's new look for the first time. This is the last album art that is directed by Doug Haverty.
I would not want to trim my mustache with those scissors. I'm just saying.
No, I would not recommend it.
Thanks. I hate it. I hate it a lot. Oh my. This is the worst album art since Dare to Be Stupid. And
okay,
you know what? If I pulled up the two side by side, I might have to have a long, hard think. Dan, please. This has been bothering me for 20 years. You have to tell me that you know what I'm about to complain about with this album art. You look at this album art. The photography is fine. The composition of the piece is fine. The fonts are fine. But if you look closely, you'll see it's not a photograph. It's an inset, a rectangular inset over a background of the track that he's running on. And it bothered me so much because you've got the grass along the side of the track or coming around the curve that abruptly ends. So it's not like they even tried to hide the seam. And I remember thinking back in the day, that would be the perfect proportion, that rectangle, if you were optimizing that cover art for a cassette tape, which would have been preposterous in 1989, let alone 99. And I can't ever see anything else on this art except there's a white speck on the right side in the track that hundreds and hundreds of times in my youth, the CD would be sitting on my desk at work or sitting on my bed at home, and I was like, oh, there's a fleck of dust on that. Nope, it's part of the art. And now I see it on my goddamn screen when I'm playing the YouTube videos, and it drives me crazy.
Can I also complain about the fact that the inset is not a further zoomed in portion of the picture, but in fact a continuation of the track based off of the curve? Like, I would get it if it was picture within picture, you know, trying to highlight something, but it's not. It's just two unrelated pictures laid over top of each other.
This is one of those, it was the style at the time kind of things. It was a very intentional, deliberate choice they did for that.
Didn't have Photoshop. What did I use? The free copy of Paint Shop Pro, something super ancient photo software compared to what we have today. I had it loaded on my PC. I could have loaded this up into that program and cleaned that spec up in 2 seconds.
I'm surprised you weren't using kid pics, but you know, that's just me.
I could do it in MS Paint, buttface. Come at me. I don't like it, and I don't want to look at it anymore if it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this album art is the pits.
Buttface. The good news is, if you were to go to Al Yankovic's YouTube channel to queue up his Running with Scissors playlist, you can listen along with us. You can just click back over to our video and not have to look at his album art with the disgusting spec. You can just listen along with us, and then that way. I don't have our current S tier in front of me, but it's starting to get pretty populated up there. We've jammed it up there with some content from the past two albums. I think the song to beat now is going to be Bohemian Polka and Amish Paradise. Can we do it tonight?
And he left his home and kissed his mommy goodbye, saying, soon I'm gonna be a Jedi. Soon I'm gonna be a Jedi.
I was kind of down, relatively, on Jurassic Park, and much more so on Gump. And I think there are a few very key reasons why I like this as a movie recap song more. For one, it's actually a recap of the plot of the movie instead of just oblique scattershot references. To this, apparently, Al relied heavily on the internet fandom rumor mill. And, as Brick was saying about listening to the Hamilton polka, it's like all the nutrients of actually watching it in a more convenient form. This song does the same, but for episode 1, and I think that is an improvement on the source material, is what I wrote in my notes. And then I had to search my memory. I don't think I've actually watched any of the prequels front to back. I was young right when they were coming out. I was target audience demographic. My parents grew up watching Star Wars, and it just completely passed me by. I have absorbed so much Star Wars in the pop cultural landscape. Am I even qualified to talk about this song?
No, but I am.
A famous bad opinion that I hold is that episode 1 is my favorite of the Star Wars films. Because I had the same kind of experience growing up, just a decade earlier than Buttface did. I didn't watch any of the Star Wars movies. I just kind of absorbed them through the cultural milieu. And episode 1 was the first one I saw in theaters, and I liked it. And then people yelled at me for 20 years about it.
Here's the thing. Phantom Menace is not a bad story. It's just a bad movie. You know, had George had a little bit of editing on the till, you know, just somebody to bounce ideas off of. But I still have a soft spot for episode 1 and just the complete cultural mania that it brought to the table. Like, my band director in high school said that he was taking a personal day so that he could go to a midnight screening. I mean, this is a figure of authority in my life saying, you know what? It's okay to take days off for personal stuff like that. And I've lived up to that philosophy ever since.
Now, I pitched this idea of the timeless parody, and I claimed that Al has swung at that T 4 times, twice on Alapalooza. This is number 3. And I think this is a slam dunk. You do not get more timeless in Western culture than Star Wars. And I think you could argue that anybody getting into Star Wars as media is going to start with either this film or the original film, both of which are just side by side on streaming now. So there's always going to be room in our life for a Star Wars song, and American Pie is itself a timeless anthem. So combining the two into this wistful song of remembrance about this Jedi remembering his mentor who caught up with Darth Maul and now he's toast. It fits so perfectly. My only complaint is that there's a really cringy rhyme with Coruscant. It's like a train wreck at the beginning of the 3rd verse, but we get past it and then the rest of the song smooths out.
I love how the first verse is just, look at all of these goofy ass Star Wars words that we can just cram together to make rhymes. It sounds like Dr. Seuss wrote it. I love it. Also, the form of the song that they're adapting, this long and winding ballad, works really, really well as a recap format. He's able to get a lot more lyrically in there as compared to Jurassic Park or Gump.
Yeah.
And he's picking a thematically appropriate song that is pining for the good old days. It's a really nice tonal complement for what is a prequel movie.
The character in the song is ostensibly Obi-Wan remembering this period of his life, just like Don McLean's original was pining for a previous period in his life. I've got this probably a low S, because I'm not super big on, you know, Star Wars, and that one Coruscant line. Just it's jagged, but definitely an S tier song.
I'm waiting for Dan to bring this down because I also have this in S.
I so desperately want to sync this.
Why?
Spite, partially.
Spite, really?
I know that this is an S tier song. Weird Al, he did his homework on it. Everything you guys are saying is true. It is thematically appropriate. Is it better than Yoda?
No.
My gut says no, it is not.
It is not. Although it does work as a very good medley to Yoda. He does the Saga Begins quite often at his live shows as the encore. He'll come out in his Jedi robes. He'll sing the Saga Begins. Then they transition into Yoda, and they do that like 5-minute long Yoda chant. My wife's favorite part of the show, for sure.
I'm pretty sure they did that at Strings Attached. I don't appreciate the fact that this is just a recap. The song isn't funny. I can't say it doesn't make me want to sing along with it, because American Pie, as much as I want to slag on that song, it's like, it is very infectious. It's fun. You love to sing along with it.
It is physically impossible to not sing along with American Pie. Cannot be done.
I want to sync this so bad, but I can't. I have to put it in S.
Yes, you do.
Because
Join us.
I have to reluctantly put it in S, because he put in the work, he put in the effort, and the fact that this was so up to the wire and it just gets everything right. But it is a low S. Jurassic Park is still better.
It is S by technicality alone.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a very favorite slacker, multi-millionaire.
So this is the thing that Al has done 2 albums in a row. He starts off with, the big headline anchor parody, the song that everybody knows, and puts his best foot forward as a parodist. And then he comes right after it with a accordion fueled original that you weren't quite sure that you were going to bop to, but guess what? You're going to get up and start dancing to it. I have to admit, Zydeco, that's a word that most people listening will go, what the hell is Zydeco? Well, Zydeco is a specific genre of Louisiana Creole music, which is distinct to, but influenced by Cajun. So
You're getting a little bit more of that French Canadian in there. Just a little bit.
yes, mon cher. Yeah. And I got to tell you guys, this song taps into the part of my brain that loves jazz and bluegrass. I don't know, I listened to it, I was like, I want to go to Popeyes and get some chicken. Now, this was too late to do a legit Pearl Jam parody, so Al decides to take a hard left and go down into the bayou, and it works, and I love it, especially because he couldn't have timed it better, because this album came out a month after Pearl Jam released Last Kiss, which is a song that, not really what you expect from Pearl Jam, but perfect timing, right?
We mentioned that Al didn't get to sneak in his Weezer on the last album, right? Is this a counterpoint to Buddy Holly?
No,
I don't hear
Holly.
I don't hear
No.
Weezer here at all.
No. I'm
No.
just saying thematically. Am I off base there?
I don't know
A little
what
off
base you're
base.
on.
All right. I'm also with Dan, loving that good old Creole Zydeco music. Ugh, gets me head bopping all the time.
This song is taking shots at Vedder, but I actually think it's an even harsher critic of the subjects in the song itself, both the jealous boyfriend and the girlfriend who is infatuated with Eddie Vedder, who I wrote down as the rich man's Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, he couldn't really take any shots at Kurt Cobain. That was a bit taboo at this time, but the frustrated, agitated, designated, alienated spokesman for the disaffected grunge generation.
What a line.
Oh, love it. And by this time, Eddie Vedder was in the news more for fighting Ticketmaster, which Al had to have known about what was going on because that was going in the news. So I have to feel that mention of Ticketmaster in the song is very deliberate.
Also, rhyming sexy with Gen Xy is... It's why I consider Al a lyrical genius, and I shouldn't be responsible for rubbing 2 syllables together.
Now, before we give a ranking, I just want to get your guys' temperature on this. As I was listening to the song, I realized that what this bad boyfriend is going through in the song is functionally the 5 stages of grief. Okay? Because he's mad, he's in denial, he gets mad, all the stuff. And at the very end, unlike the other Bad Partner songs that Al has done, this character accepts his fate and lets go of his girl so that she can chase Eddie Vedder.
Well, he lets go of the girl so he can go stalk Alanis Morissette.
Well, that's before that. Like after he talks about stalking Alanis Morissette, that's when he comes to the acceptance. Like, you know what? I'll let her go and I'll let her be happy.
I have a mini bone to pick with this guy. He's right to point out that he's some kind of wiener. Look,
Yeah.
both me and my partner are bisexual and polyamorous, which means there's quite an overlap in our celebrity crushes. I can't imagine making this big of a stink over just how much Gladio merch there is. And Gladio's awesome, don't get me wrong, but we have we got a problem in the house. So you bet we're first in line for whatever hot trash Jason Statham movie is coming out next. Like, no questions asked there. And baby here, at most, has like done what? She's knitted a sweater for the guy. Like, we're not getting her side of the infatuation. This guy is just like, you keep listening to his music and you keep going to his shows and now you made him a sweater. Why you gotta be butthurt and competitive over this dude? And then, you know what? Do not take it to the actually unhealthy place of stalking Canada's alt-rock superstar, all right?
Zydeco is not for Uber drivers under 40 or naval helmsmen with engaged earlobes. Ask your doctor if Zydeco is right for you. I've literally only known this word existed for the past 20 hours, and I'm obsessed with it, and I have to agree, it is the perfect musical choice to call Eddie Vedder a wiener. So, A tier for Alanis Morissette.
Yeah.
I gave this an S.
This is an
Really?
A for me. I can't put this in S, but whoo boy.
All the goyim say I'm pretty fly for a rabbi.
Culturally insensitive. Ooh, This song is functionally the same joke as lasagna and taco grande.
Yeah.
But it also like leaves the linguistic elements and starts to dip its toe into cultural comedy. For example, Al observes that the Jew does his own accounting. And even in 1999, this one, how did you put it, Dan? Had you pulling at your collar?
You are tugging at your collar a bit for this.
The two pieces of media in the late 90s that that always would contrast this song with was an episode of Seinfeld where Jerry's dentist converts to Judaism so he can start telling Jew jokes, and whether or not that's okay, or kosher, as they would say. Culturally insensitive. And Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song, which is a perfectly fine, wholesome holiday song where Sandler sings about Jewish celebrities and pokes a little bit of fun at Jewish traditions. The difference is Al's not Jewish.
Al's not Jewish, but for some reason before this, a lot of people thought he was.
Do you think it might have to do with, like, where does this fall on the line of Amish Paradise?
My line was, this is not as good as Amish Paradise, obviously.
No.
Further on in my notes, I wrote, like Fat, this is having fun, not making fun. And I think the reason why Al gets away with this is that he has a knack for straddling the line between charming stereotype and kind of appropriative. And I think the reason why for this particular song that you can absolutely be tugging your collar at it, but Pretty Fly for a White Guy was a song about cultural appropriation that has aged very poorly because, I mean, the Offspring aren't very good. Shots fired. So it makes sense that this is also a song by a white guy who feels at home with Jewish comedy because fan of Mad Magazine, he grew up in a time where Jewish comedy was becoming more and more part of the American melting pot, like Mel Brooks movies, Carl Reiner, so on and so forth.
The fact that it's not malicious does score some points. Like,
Yes.
I understand it's not malicious. It's also why I kind of gave a pass to lasagna and taco grande for the same reason.
Yeah. And something that keeps this from being hacky is the bris joke.
That he gets to keep his tip.
Yeah.
Almost makes the rest of the song worth it. Almost.
Yeah, almost.
I'm just surprised none of you have done a "Hey Lucy, you're back" joke at this point. Like, that's number one with a bullet. Was first we wanted to say, "Good job, Tress McNeil."
Yes. I mean, she's doing the how you doing, Bernie?
The other notes that I have for this song, or the phlegm on hip, was unnecessary, but welcome anyways. And let's see if I can do this. Oi gewalt, I'm so verklempt I could plots, is, as the culmination of everything that this song is doing, I think it was the correct line to go out on.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I kind of hate Pretty Fly for a White Guy, and I don't like The Offspring, so listening to this song makes my ears hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as everything else in my notes, you guys touched on it, it's the different cultures have funny sounding words trilogy, and it's also as rough as lasagna and taco grande. And I think it's crossing a line that Amish Paradise stayed on the right side of.
A lot of the stuff I was reading out there from a lot of people were saying, yes, I totally get it. And I'm very surprised that Al himself is not Jewish based on a lot of the comedy and other stuff that he had done in previous songs. So I don't know, man.
I have this in D for dreidel.
Like, I get it. You're doing a lot lyrically, but you know, how much can you stretch other cultures' words are funny? C, as high as I can go.
I also gave this a C.
And every single night he had a strange recurring dream where he was wearing lederhosen and a vat of sour cream. But that's really not important to the story.
25 years ago. A time when we could afford such extravagances as minute-long opening sequences in a half-hour Saturday morning TV show. A time that I desperately, desperately miss because I love TV theme songs. And you know, this isn't a bad TV theme song. It's all right. I think my takeaway from this is, what if Al took the energy that he put into a polka medley and put into a original song? And that's kind of what you get out of the theme to the Weird Al show. It's fine. It's hard to talk about it without talking about the Weird Al show, which for science I sat down and watched a few episodes for it because I remember watching some of it way, way back in the day and remembering not being very impressed by it. It's neither fish nor fowl. It's like, oh, we've got a lot of these jokes that I think are really more aimed towards adults, but the framing device is a Pee-wee's Playhouse ripoff. This show was made for one person and perhaps his staff around him, and that's Weird Al.
Who signs off on the Weird Al show after UHF is already in the wild?
Yeah.
Like, whoever signed that contract knew, like, what they were getting into. So I know Al didn't know in 1999 that he would eventually release medium rarities, but this belongs on medium rarities.
Yeah, this is padding.
I do really like the line, he heard the tortured screaming of a funny little man. Like, that's a good gag. He slipped that past S&P. Like, they must not have been listening very closely. But you can't really do much with this except put it in C tier, right?
Yeah, I want to point out that my favorite lyric, at least according to the Weird Al fan wiki, is the last line of the song, which is, and I quote, parentheses, much unintelligible talking and yelling, end parentheses. So are we going to talk about songs that are mostly inconsequential rambling anecdotes later on? And like,
I wonder.
I can see why that wouldn't work for some, because it really doesn't work for me here. It doesn't leave you a lot to grab onto and mull over lyrically.
It is a bit of a Shaggy Dog story to set up the premise of the Weird Al show, which I tried to watch an episode of. I got through like 5 minutes, and then I just skipped ahead to the very end, where Al turned to the human children watching his program and said, hey, look, it's the Bare Naked Ladies.
I'm like, well, that kind of is a left turn there because I saw that as well. The Weird Al show actually helped a bunch of people's careers, like people who had gotten their start or had really launched something out of it. For example, we had the return of the Jurassic Park guys who worked on the video, who worked on some of the animated sequences of the opening for this. And then we get weird stuff like DNA Studios, which is run by the guy who goes on to do Jimmy Neutron, who put that in our world.
Musically, as far as the song goes, it's designed to be zany, high energy, and a bit annoying. And I think that lands it in, like, actually C tier. No, yeah, I'll put it as high as C.
I mean, I gave it a B because, as you know, I'm a sucker for TV theme songs. As a TV theme song, this is great. As a Weird Al song,
They're always roaring, cursing, kicking, button, point, and blame. On the air, they don't care, they got no shame. There was one guy who I'm sure felt a little strange when he found out that his wife had a sex change. They have a tendency to...
And I quote, Jerry Springer himself rejected a music video for this song, as he thought the song was too negative towards his show.
That's not a real quote. Come on.
I pulled it from the Weird Al wiki. Then make a show that, when accurately described, reflects less negatively to outside observers, doofus.
Jerry Springer's a real piece of work, man.
Yeah. On that same note, Al, buddy, some of these lyrics have aged less than gracefully, and right out of the gate, too. I want to commend Al for his continual display of excellent alternative lyricism. I am in awe of just how thoroughly the Buck-Ass Nude Lasses song have been Frankensteined into a new beast entirely. Al even goes so far as to write a completely new pre-chorus, something that not even the original 1 Week bothered to do. Also, shout out to that fight between Al and Tress MacNeille. It's fantastic. As Dan is wont to say, bleeps are funny. Yeah, it's just a shame about some of them lyrics, though, eh?
So what I wrote is that this is as close as Al gets to edgelord humor, and I don't like it because Al is not an edgelord. He is a nihilist doomer at times, and I know it was the style of the time and everything else, but and I know that this is a character, and Jerry Springer himself was doing terrible things on his show and exploiting people. And there's lots of great, Buttface said, there's a lot of great lyrical work going in here, except that there's a huge pile of crap that's put right into it. And the way I look at it is like the Cartman principle. Cartman is funny because he is terrible and you're not supposed to like him. But at some point, the irony becomes too much and you horseshoe around a little bit. And this song is horseshoeing.
How low do you want to rate this, Dan?
I put an F.
You got an F. Buttface, were you a little more generous than that?
I put it in D. Al is, he nails BNL.
He nails the sound. There's so much good BNL going on in here, and that really should bring it up in D for me, but this is just like a cumulative thing that I feel like I have to take a stand here.
I argue that the butt of the joke is more pointed towards the content of the show, Jerry Springer.
Yes.
And let those of us here who haven't watched a feature-length YouTube video of some deranged train wreck, shout out to Frederick Knuston, throw the first stone. Like,
Yeah.
I'm there for that kind of entertainment sometimes, but I don't ever want to play this song out loud. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. So the song is not unlistenable.
It's D tier for me.
For the first time then, because Dan has this as an F, can't go lower than F. I have this as an S, and it's not a weak S, it's a big boy S. I love everything about it. I mentioned this last album when Buttface dragged I Remember Kefka into this, but I have done Weird Al style parodies and published them on YouTube. And the one that I did was for Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire, which is a very fast-paced song with very tightly packed lyrics that don't flow into standard English phrases. Bare Naked Ladies 1 Week is like if that song was like Hold My Beer. Writing a parody of 1 Week is so hard. Not for the least of which because the Bare Naked Ladies, they're not a comedy group, but they are irreverent. They are humorous. There are little BNL-isms that make you laugh. Al slips one into this song, come over here and pull on my finger. That's the kind of thing that they would have done. But when you do a comedy spoof of something that's already funny, it's just disaster waiting to happen. So you really have to be careful. And then just making lyrics that scan properly with 1 week had to have been monstrously difficult. And the subject matter just doesn't bother me because I watched a lot of Jerry Springer and it's just an accurate description of what was on the show and the kind of language they used. And even in the 90s, it's not like anybody thought Jerry Springer was okay. His show was always considered offensive and exploitative. And the line that sticks out for me in the song is, it's totally worthless, like a bad check. It's like a train wreck. You want to stare, but you can't look away. My vice right now that I'm trying to wean myself off of is like true crime stuff, like JCS content on YouTube or like Netflix doc, because it's just exploitative and it hurts and it's not good and our culture would be better off without it. But it is there and I'm drawn to it. And so when I hear this song, it's, yeah, I remember I was there at the time. We are running the full gamut on the tier ladder today. I'm gonna explain what happened here, guys. Al released the alternative Polka. Then he was like, no, you know what? That song about doink you like an animal, not done with. Roll that one back on out here. We gotta get that back on the table. I was not expecting when I did my Scissors listen this week that Germs was gonna be like this sleeper hit of the album for me. He does a really impactful job in this song, injecting fear and disgust into his voice for the whole song. Look under the microscope. See? And on the subject of songs that just took themselves way too seriously and bands that just were really, really in their own heads. And I know that we're going to get into probably other songs that influence this piece, but when I listen to it now, especially after doing my polka playlist listen, I can only hear Nine Inch Nails, right?
Well, yeah, that's what this is.
This is the fan wiki list. Like, this is a mashup of 4 or 5 different Nine Inch Nails songs.
I don't hear it,
but
as
it
a
is
mashup.
just Closer.
I just hear Closer. And that song desperately needed a little more of a hack job that he was able to put in that polka medley, and I'm glad he got around to doing it. Yeah, I remember not liking this song as much as a kid, but I am tonight gonna pitch this for S tier.
Yeah.
So, do you think this song hits different in a post-pandemic world that we now find ourselves in? Like, I wonder if this song saw any uptick in its streaming hits similar to what happened with Soderbergh's Contagion. Like, are we just a little bit more aware of that culturally now?
I considered that. I don't think it does, at least not for me. Like, the song would either have to be about lockdowns or anti-vaxxers. Because for me, I'm already, like, I'm the guy who has to wash his hands 500 times a day. Like, I can't have, like, schmutz on my hands at all. So, like, I'm already super aware of germs and things. So
I think this kind of triggers the OCD part of it, because that was also kind of going around at the time that people were becoming more culturally aware of that.
the rising energy in the bridge section of the song before the final chorus, legit one of my favorite spots on the album. And then my final note, the outro itself as a pastiche of Closer is just glass perfect.
I am not a 9 Inch Nails fan. I kind of wish that the vocal delivery made my skin crawl more like it does in Closer. Just that feeling of a tiny little Trent Reznor inside of my ear canal, you know? You get that on Closer, you don't get that here with Al's delivery. I get it, you get a lot more panic, you get a lot more anxiety from it, but by not picking just one aspect of 9 Inch Nails, like he's doing a cover or a pastiche of Closer, but pulling in more instrumentation and vocal deliveries from other songs, you're getting a more vivid picture with a more varied palette. Al does this a lot, right? He does a lot of building and absurdist escalation, and this song completely subverts that by deflating it with, it kind of upsets me, as the final line, as punctuation. Like, you know, it's a little nitpick.
It has that nebbish nerd energy.
Yeah.
So where do you like it in terms of a letter grade, Buttface?
I gave it a B for Bacteria.
Okay.
See, I wonder what Trent Reznor actually thinks of this song. Like, I've had other artist reactions to various songs, but not to this one. And it does feel like it could be right out of the Quake soundtrack. They really felt proud of this song. Like, I was reading bits where Bermuda Schwartz, who is probably the most online of all of the members of the band, because he was the one who was doing the website for a very long time, was posting in a news group saying, oh man, this is like some of the best stuff we've ever done. We're so proud of this song, and so on. And I get it, because they perfectly nailed the 9 Inch Nails sound. It feels like it could be right out of the Quake soundtrack. And honestly, I'm even getting a little bit of a Saliva vibe out of it, especially if you've ever heard Saliva's Peter Gunn from the Spy Hunter soundtrack.
Oh, you're talking about a band called Saliva, not like the
Yes.
liquid from your mouth.
Yes, the band called Saliva.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down.
Last week, I told the story about how FLCL was one of the first exposures to Weird Al that I had, that FLCL polka. This was the first one, and it also came in the form of an AMV downloaded by that same friend. Would have been a year or two earlier when I saw The Anime Polka by Ermac Studios, released in 2001. That video was ground zero, and Weird Al has been a part of my regular listening habits ever since. This polka is stacked with the hits, in my opinion. Be it Wannabe, Backstreet's Back, Sex and Candy, or Closing Time, I cannot pick just one favorite. It's a shame that this came out just in time to miss the true meme song of the new millennium. But like, at least we got Smash Mouth squeaked in with some reputation. Also, Walking on the Sun is the better song.
Yes.
This polka, man, I don't know. I think that this polka is the strongest mixtape of any others, at least for my personal preference. Every song in here, the way they flow into each other, if you just listen to the polka track list, it's the best one. This is my number one polka. No others could hope to dethrone it. I will carry this song in my heart to my grave. This is as S as any song we've had this entire run.
I feel like if I was, getting to know somebody and maybe dating them, and they handed me a mixtape with The Dope Show followed immediately by Bop, I would run, not walk away from that relationship. I love this idea of the polka playlist because this is a little ritual that I've had ever since Running with Scissors. Didn't need to do it for alternative polka because I knew all the songs. Running with Scissors had some songs I hadn't heard before. And Napster, me hearties, right?
Yar.
So, this was my first Napster playlist back in the day. And I was going through the playlist earlier this week. And you have to keep in mind that my wife, she's about 2 years younger than me. So her musical awakening would have been a little bit behind mine. So mine was the alternative polka. That was all my... And then this is the first one she kept commenting on. Why are you listening to Backstreet Boys? I didn't even know you liked Marilyn. So, yeah, that's it. A tier.
This is SS plus 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 plus. I can't.
I've run out of S polkas over here. I'm down to the A's now.
I gave this an A because the point that Ricky made last week that Al's polka sound cemented itself with Bohemian polka, even though it was only one song, and functionally every polka we're getting since then is the styling of Bohemian polka applied to a group of songs. Stylistically, this polka is no different than what we listened to last week. It's still good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it doesn't really do anything new.
This is as shined and polished and all edges sanded off. This is the perfect ideal. And then he goes out from here and plays. Going back in history, you can see the rougher form building, and going forward, you can see some interesting deviation where, again, we move back to next week with Angry White Boy Polka doing a lot of new metal stuff.
I mean, you're not wrong. There's something to appreciate with something that has been a craft that has just been 10,000 hours, makes you a master. You've shined and honed and everything else into it. But that just doesn't make it as interesting. To me, the weird diversions and stuff are what make polkas interesting.
I don't consider it a negative that he picked all top 40 schlock. And some of this schlock I was really into, by the way. I owned Chumbawamba. I was that guy.
I think it's perfect that it ended with Closing Time. I mean, what else could you have ended it with?
The back-to-back Sex and Candy Closing Time is just the 1-2 punch. Oh, mwah.
Do you have a song from the polka that you would have preferred to hear a full parody of?
Walking on the Sun.
Really? Some Smash Mouth?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with Ray of Light.
Okay, I get what you're putting down.
Yeah, this was around a time where Madonna was having a little bit of a comeback in the late 90s. She'd done Evita, and she had just recorded Ray of Light, which was her biggest song in a while. And maybe Al owes a little some of his success back in the 80s.
For me, it's gotta be Wannabe. I want to know Al's comedy list of what you gotta do.
Okay.
That's the dumbest song in this polka, and this polka also consists of tub thumping and mbop, so...
All your friends are laughing behind your back.
Kill them.
Take down all those naked pictures of Ernest Borgnine you got hanging.
Now, you may find it inconceivable, or at the very least a bit unlikely, that the relative position of the planets or the stars could have a special deep significance or meaning that exclusively applies to only you, but let me give you my assurance that these forecasts and predictions are all based on solid scientific documented evidence that... Join us next week when Buttface massacres hardware store.
I will not be attempting hardware store.
This song's real special to me. So I'm 17 years old. It's 1999. Going through some heavy stuff involving rejecting the religion that I was raised in, discovering the philosophy of skepticism, developing my attitude about junk science and magical thinking, which are cornerstones of my life today. And I didn't have a lot of support from the adults in my life at the time. My parents thought I was going through a phase. My church pastor wanted me to, it was a big thing. And just having a song that so thoroughly dismantles one of the pillars of American pseudoscience did my heart so much good. Just needed this song at the time. And I'm not even sure I was emotionally aware of needing it at the time. That came later in life looking back. That's not the purpose of the song, obviously. Al did not sit down and write the song for me. He just horoscopes are dumb. I'm going to write a song about how horoscopes are dumb. But one of the things when you have a creator that is this prolific for so long and has so many pieces out there that are going to touch people in so many different ways, they can't anticipate how their work is going to affect people. That this song affected me in that way is such a small part of Al's work, but it is so important to me that I cannot put this song anywhere near A tier.
I hear what you're saying, but the stars say you're an exciting and wonderful person, but you know they're lying. Describes my insecurities pretty succinctly. So I don't know, maybe the rest of the song is spot on too.
I mean, as an Aries, I certainly am mindful of my colorectal health.
I failed a driver's test because I put a roll of tape up there because I had to. The song wasn't out yet when I took my. I didn't know.
Look, I went on record way back that ska is just reggae nightcore. And while none of those are my standard listening genre, I can skank to some ska when the mood arises, guys.
I mean, I took so many notes on this. Like, if you're a third wave ska artist, you have to tip your cap and admit that you've been outmaneuvered by Weird Al, because this is white boy ska supreme. Coming at the crest, I posit to you that if Al did not get a start in the 70s, but instead got his start in the 90s, would he have been a ska boy instead of a punk rock polka boy? And I posit to you the answer to that question is yes. It also helps that we have authentic ska performances with Real Big Fish and Tower of Power performers on this song. I mean,
I was shocked to hear that.
Al also recognized his limits, and he got some ringers in to give him a hand.
Y'all know I love layered multi-part delayed harmony as a chorus, and boy, this song delivers on that.
Oh, full of it. Love
and
it.
as Brick pointed out, you know, that building exuberance of the bridge that just spells out the message of the song is the cherry on top.
I mean, this has to be S for ska.
Look, not even a bucket load of Homestuck memes and AMVs could sour this song for me. It's an S.
And plus, we got the new video for it recently, which is great.
Surprise!
Brand new video in 2023. I would love to place this above Saga Begins.
Yeah.
How high in S can we place this? That's going to be the
In
question.
the master list, I'm not kidding. I think there's only one song in the Legendarium that I would place above Horoscope.
Okay, guys, you're going to have to forgive me for the monologue I am about to go on, because it is not every day that we have a hastily made history for one song. But today is that day. Quote, I almost always record the lead vocals first. The only exception that comes to mind is It's All About the Pentiums. I had pitched Puff Daddy on the parody idea, and by the time I finally got his official approval, we were already in the final studio sessions for Running with Scissors. It was such a last-minute addition to the album, I had no choice but to record all the instrument tracks and background vocals first, just to buy me some time to come up with the lyrics. We were mixing the last few songs on the album by the time I finished writing the lyrics to Pentiums, and I wound up recording the lead vocals just a couple days before the album had to be mastered. It is a good thing I work well under pressure. Obviously, I am giving the song the rare, ultra rare S sextuple plus, putting it above Jurassic Park in my Weird Al rankings.
You have got to be kidding me, Dan.
And this song, so when we're thinking about all about the Benjamins, we're usually thinking most of the time about the original one that I can't call him Diddy, I'm just going to call him Puff Daddy. Well, no, that Diddy and B.I.G. did back in the day. You listen to that and you're like, okay. But then you listen to the rock remix of it, which had ringers like Tommy Stinson, Rob Zombie, and Dave Grohl, which is a completely different mix and changes the tone and feel of the song entirely. And that is what Al is parodying / homaging in this particular song. And the fact that he nails this, I can't complain anything about the sound. He gets it perfectly, he even improves on it in some places. The lyrics of the song hold up incredibly well. The fact that I can only pick out probably two things that could just be slightly tweaked and the song would still be 100% relevant today. My Commodore 64 is really neato. I have two of them. But what makes this song the best song that Al has ever written is this following stanza. Hey fella, I bet you're still living in your parents' cellar, downloading pictures of Sarah Michelle Gellar, and posting me too, like some brain-dead AOLer. I should go do the world a favor and cap you like old Yeller. You're just about as useless as JPEGs to Helen Keller. And that useless line is 100% intentional and beautiful. And I love it. I love this. We're not even touching on the video. Which is another brilliant masterwork. So I've said my piece. This is probably my favorite Weird Al song of all time.
So I just want to point out that on this album, the last run of songs have been, I was introduced to anime, Brick was discovering skepticism, and Dan was out there twinking their PC.
I mean, this was me. I was the title character of this video.
Dan, it's hilarious that you said that, oh, this song aged so well because installed a T1 line in my house, always at my PC, double clicking on my Mizhouse. Might be the most dated line in the discography.
Like I said, if all it takes is one or two little tweaks.
He says Mizhouse!
Am I
know.
in Bizarro world here? All right. You're going to get a big dose of real talk. You got to listen carefully to me now. I've mellowed out a lot over the years, Dan. You've known me since I was a teenager. At that time, if I had known you really loved this song, we would not be friends today, and that's a fact. Okay, to quote Canadian philosophizer and opinion haver, Naria Rumfasad, woof! It hurts so bad. Even in the days of 1.0, like, these lyrics were real cringe. The only good line in the song, and it's only kinda good, is, if I ever meet you, I'll Control Alt Delete you. That's
come on.
You're not going to give credit
Brick.
to Alt Total Loser?
No.
The best
You know
lines
why?
in the song.
Because it's not Alt Total Loser, it's Alt dot Total dot Loser.
The best lines in the song are what kind of chip you got in there, a Dorito, or you waxing your modem trying to make it go faster.
You guys gotta remember how much Pac-Man bugged me because I knew too much about video games. I don't even know that much about computers, and this song bugged the hell out of me in
No, see,
99.
I know way too much about computers, and that's why everything in it is wicked funny.
Dan, I got this in a D. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dan. It's just too bad that this song is ear-grating to listen to. Look, I had the backing track loop. The guitar is repetitive as hell. The chorus, the kids these days with their yelling and their screaming, thinking it's music. No, I'm joking with you. The lyrics alone put this song in an S tier. As a style parody, it nails the vibes. I cannot take points off for it not being the target audience for me specifically. Game, gotta respect Game.
Wow.
You can just accept that you're wrong.
But when I hit those big speed bumps, my darling little rhinestone bumps keep slipping off the mother-loving clutch. But still I'm driving a truck.
Truck Drivin' Song is not actually the song's full title. Did you guys know that?
Oh, really? What is it?
It is Truck Drivin' Song, parentheses, the song that broke Brick Road's Pandora playlist. Sitting at work, listening to Pandora, as I do. And I'm like, I feel like listening to some Weird Al Yankovic. Now, what song have I not heard of his in a while? And then Pandora sucked my hot butt down a black hole of country western music from which there was no escape.
Oh no!
Ruins my carefully crafted playlist. Other than that, I think the song is funny. Like, there's a reason that I wanted to listen to it that night. I like it a lot.
Can I tell a personal story?
Yes.
A friend of the family, let's call him Mr. Tim. The names have been changed. Was a retired long-haul trucker who moved out here to BC, having come from Saskatchewan. He was 250 pounds, 6 foot, lean, mean Albertan who looked the spitting image of Woody Harrelson with a handlebar mustache. I think I only ever saw him in cowboy boots and a cattleman hat. Mr. Tim could also recite this entire song backwards.
Wow.
This is just one data point, but I don't know, man. It's hard to hate on this song. It is an anthem.
Yeah, it pulls from that 1970s truck driving oeuvre that we had. It was C.W. McCall and, Smokey and the Bandit, which everybody likes Smokey and the Bandit, Eastbound and Down and Convoy. Oh, those are rocking good times. Everybody bought a CB radio. We were all hipping with it. 10-4, good buddy. Got the Smokies on our tail.
Were we all?
It was before your time. Unlike some of the other voyages that we've had. I actually really like this song because the character is either, and the way Elle's written it, it's actually kind of clever that you can read it multiple ways. Character is either a woman or actual trans person or drag performer or person who likes to cross, whatever makes you comfortable in reading it. This song could certainly speak to you.
Dan, I can only hope to look as good in drag as the eponymous truck driver, though I
Me
do try
too.
my best.
Now, see, I'm listening to the song. It occurred to me that the comedy stylings of this is very much playing in the Monty Python Lumberjack song.
Oh, absolutely.
What if you took the Lumberjack song and made it about truck
Yeah, a little
drivers?
bit.
And that's kind of what makes this funny too. It plays in that same area because it's not your expectations, right? It's not what you expect of truck drivers. And hey, shifting multiple forward gears in high heels is hard. I've never done it.
I'm gonna need you to get the line straight. It's, I'm jamming gears and hauling freight, well, I sure hope my seams are straight, which is
Yeah.
the line of the song.
Yeah.
This might be one of my favorite characters in a Weird Al song because it doesn't matter the actual identity of the character. I've known some people in my life who started getting into the industry of like long haul trucking. Nobody lasted more than a year. It's impossible. You've got to have a really specific personality matrix for that lifestyle too. And one thing that I've heard is when you're out there, you do what you can to keep your mind alive. And so this is a person who's, you know what? There's nobody around to see how fabulous I look. Not an excuse to not look fabulous.
Exactly. Look, they're just living their best life, and I approve.
And also, we gotta speak musically, this is easily Al's best country song, right?
Oh,
Of the
yeah.
few that he's done, yeah.
It's not even close.
He's done 3 country songs, and this is top of the heap.
I like this for
Yeah.
A.
I'm putting this in S, I'm being honest.
I mean, I gave it an A.
Grapefruit diet. I'm getting tired of my big fat rear. Blow fatty.
In the year 1998/1999, you could not escape the song Zoot Suit Riot by the Cherry Poppin' Daddies, who I will not give them the dignity of calling them the Daddies. They must live with the shame that they have chosen for their original name. We're not even getting to the content of the Weird Al song because we have to address that, number one, Steve Perry, the lead singer and frontman of the Cherry Poppin' Daddies, is certainly a character. Because Steve, number one, maybe honestly, not a great idea to swing out to a song about race riots. And the Cherry Poppin' Daddies were a ska band that accidentally found themselves advertised as a swing band, and this drove Steve Perry absolutely insane. Steve Perry, on being parodied by Al, quote, "I'm honored, I guess. Why Weird Al is such an icon is a mystery to me, though. And I say to you, Steve Perry, Weird Al is an American treasure. Who the hell are you?"
He's a cherry poppin' daddy. Didn't you hear him? I thought he explained that.
Cherry Poppin' Daddies is 1, a hell of a name, and 2, feels like an already dated point of reference by the time this song came out, Grapefruit Diet, right?
Yeah.
Like it was a flash in the pan, one-hit wonder kind of thing.
Yeah, you know
Yes.
what? Because you take a band like Bare Naked Ladies, who also has a questionable name that they probably should have settled on something else. Because what happens if you get introduced on a kid's show, right?
Oh, then you just, the buck-ass nude lasses, we already covered this.
Right. Because Al must have, like, surely had been following, like, BNL's career probably since the 80s. And was just, as soon as they have a smash, as soon as they have a big hit, like, the stunt went, like, triple platinum or something, and he knew, why pull in behind the Cherry Poppin' Daddies for a parody without that kind of clout?
Because Al wanted to do a big band song. Al wanted to stretch his big band
that's
muscles.
fine. I guess. And I love, don't get me wrong, I love big band. I love jazz. I love Zoot Suit Riot. I was the only 17-year-old in the ice cream shop who, when that song came on the radio, didn't go, ugh. And I really love this parody. It's the sequel to Fat. It's covering the same subject. It's just he's gone back to his roots for the silly food song, having some fun with big band. So I've got Grapefruit Diet and S.
Oh.
Doing something different with a silly food song, though. This isn't about give me all the food. This isn't about one specific type of food. He challenged himself and went, how can I take a fad craze song and pair it with a fad craze health conscious diet. And then the match made in heaven.
Yeah, you know what?
Grapefruit diet.
I like that explanation. That elevates it above fat for me.
This is the end of the food songs, guys. This is the last one.
This is the ultimate end point for food songs. It clearly is. This is swearing off the stuff.
I don't know, he kind of relapses at the end there. But here's the thing. I'm going to be the boat sinker. The thing about fat, like I mentioned when we were talking about it, there was kind of a pride or something in it. The character owned it. And that kind of colored how I thought about the jokes. I don't know. This one feels kind of mean. For whatever reason, it has a different vibe to it.
It's because the character fails at the end. Like he's fallen off the wagon. So yeah, it's a downer song.
For whatever reason, just going back to the old jokes just doesn't feel as funny this time. I guess it's like he's trying to recapture the magic of fat, but like fat, I think really works with what he was doing with Michael Jackson on that. I get Buttface's point about how he's putting the fad diets with the fad songs.
I would go one step further and say it's not that he's falling off the wagon, it's that the grapefruit diet wasn't going to work in the first place.
Yeah.
You can't just stick to this.
Wait a minute. Are there 2 songs on this album slamming pseudoscience and I didn't know it until now?
I don't know, I feel like I want to give it a C for a cheeseburger.
And Buttface, you gave it...
I'm giving it an S. It's
Yeah.
SCS.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again. If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator. If you'd like to make a call.
When you search Albuquerque on Google, you get some town in New Mexico. When you search Albuquerque Weird Al on Google, the first result, top of the page, is Albuquerque the Movie, an 11-minute flash animated short by R. Rabin from back in 2006, predating their video for Everything You Know Is Wrong. And that is the ideal way to experience this epic.
I disagree.
This song is meant to have visuals to it, is what I build that point towards. This song works right up to the point that it doesn't. The fake out, to cut a long story short, at the 4.5-minute mark, only to then lead into the donut debacle and the love story tragedy. I love a biopic you can just imagine of this poor schmuck. Its pacing is pretty perfect, and then it loses me in the very last verse with the 2 non sequiturs where the main character turns out to be a deranged, violent lunatic going full aggro at the drop of the hat. If only this song was just like 8 or 9 minutes long, it'd be perfect. You know, sometimes less is more.
In the Illustrated Al, there are Weird Al songs that have been adapted into comic form with lots of wonderful, fantastic artists doing some really incredible work. And there is Albuquerque in it, as well as Nature Trail to Hell and Jackson Park Express. And honestly, Albuquerque ends with Al's character, you know, the whole bit where he's like, well, I lost my train of thought. What I was trying to say is that's him testifying in court for the actions on the previous page, which is the violence. And he's yelling in the judge's ear saying, I hate sauerkraut. And the judge's brain is flying out of his ear.
I have more notes. Brick's asleep. So, look,
I also have more
I'm
notes.
sorry. I fell asleep in the middle of that stupid song that I hate. Big F. Big F. The end.
Look, I lied earlier. The actually most dated line in the song is Biodome with Pauly Shore.
Yes.
And the only other note I have for this is, Al, try frying your sauerkraut in a pan with some onions and apples, sliced real thin, and then just a sprinkle of brown sugar and cinnamon. It's delicious.
I mean, I don't like sauerkraut, but Buttface, I would give it a shot.
I would not. I would throw your crappy sauerkraut in the garbage and be like, that's where it belongs with Albuquerque.
So I don't like Albuquerque for a variety of reasons, but I feel the song at least deserves a little bit of explanation as to why it is. This is a homage to a song by the Rugburns called Dick's Automotive. This is Al playing a joke on the audience. And I don't like practical jokes very much, and this is very much a practical joke. I actually like the musical bit where it goes, Albuquerque. It's like, okay, I can appreciate that. Like, if he had shortened this up and made like an actual song based on that, I would probably like it a lot more. This is Al trolling the audience.
I get it. You guys would just rather listen to 2 plays of Nature Trail to Hell instead of 1 play of Albuquerque. And
I would rather listen to 900 plays of Bite Me. That's not even remotely true.
But again, that's the other hand I want to bring up is instead of doing a long silence with one joke at the end that is terrible to listen to, this song is relatively inoffensive and does have moments of musical, like, actual showmanship to it. He's also, we've been complaining this entire, complaining's hard, but we've pointed out Al sometimes does these long drawn out fade outs. Sometimes he keeps improvising and adding in new interesting things. Other times they're just repetitive and go on too long. This is the marrying and then stretching it as far as it needed to go. He doesn't need to go longer than this song. But walking up to that line, sticking one foot over it and saying, there, this is as far as I need to take it, I think is fine to play with your audience that way. And it really hit for a lot of people. It starts with character background, it goes up to their travel to Albuquerque, then their first couple of experiences.
It has events. It has events that do not connect, that are not coherent, that don't relate to each other. It's a sequence of non sequitur events. It's not literally a nonsense song, like, say, Bob.
Or say the Weird Al Show theme. Like, the Weird Al Show theme just goes to different notable events in this guy's life, kind of scattershot.
It's 2 minutes long.
This song doesn't. This song tells a full story that should end after the breakup, the Columbia Record Company incident. But
I feel you do insult to the word story. I want this so low in F tier that Bite Me can look up and see the light from it emanating out.
Really?
I'm rating this song as an F tier, and I would, even if it was its only Shaggy Dog song. But because it becomes like the new troll from now on every album going forward, like, I blame the next few Shaggy Dog songs on Albuquerque.
And so Al stood at the shores of Mount Doom, holding the ring inscribed Albuquerque on it, and he gazed at this ring, wondering, should I? Should I? And so other friends said, cast the ring into the mountain. And Al's like, nah, I'm gonna keep it. And
yeah, that's
what
exactly what happened.
I still like this song. It's a B.
Wow.
Oh, come on.
I gave this
like
a
that.
D.
I don't hate this song. I don't love this song. But I'll still listen to it every once in a while.
I gave it a D.
I'm gonna call B plus D plus F a high D. I feel like this song gave me the D. Yo, Running with Scissors is end of an era. That's it. Done with the 90s. Moving on into the aughties in the next album. So we can get into the dreary and singular landscape that is aughties music.
Yeah.
I thought Buttface was going to come at me right there. I really did.
No, I'm with you.
I mean, unlike Bad Hair Day, this album has a lot that's going on with it. Not all of it good, not all of it great. There's a lot of good material on here, but there's also a lot of material I don't like. So, and it's understandable to me that this was performed a little worse than Bad Hair Day. You have to deal with Albuquerque.
Well, you don't have to deal with Albuquerque. You can turn the album off at there if you don't like it.
That requires me getting out of my chair.
I'm looking at our ranking here, and this is an A heavy record, and then also very C heavy. Personally, album starts strong. It's got the American Pie riff, it's got Zydeco, and then my back half, Polka Onward, is S, 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 B. I would put this album as an A. I think it's pretty strong. One glaring exception.
I think for me personally, it has to be a B, even though it has probably my favorite Weird Al song of all time on it.
I could have known from the start you'd be all about the Pentiums.
If you had held me over a wood chipper and told me to guess Dan's favorite Weird Al song, I would.
You'd have said Jurassic Park.
If you gave me 20 guesses, I wouldn't have suggested Pentiums. Buttface, you watched a movie this week, didn't you?
I did watch a movie this week. In fact, I watched a movie like 12 hours ago. Spy Hard.
Cause if you wanna win, you gotta spy hard.
This L will explode in 60 seconds.
I understood that reference.
So I remember seeing this movie in the theater with my oldest brother. And one of the highlights was sitting down and seeing it open up with a Weird Al credit sequence, because this song in this movie came out around the time of Bad Hair Day. And yes, this was definitely the downslope of Leslie Nielsen's career. But at least this movie and the one that followed it, Wrongfully Accused, are largely watchable. Your expectations are not going to be blown away or challenged or anything. It's just like, oh yes, we're making fun of this particular movie and we hired Weird Al to do it.
My top 3 Bond movie openers are Live and Let Die, Another Way to Die, and Snake Eater. This is solidly below those.
The thing about Snake Eater is that it is genuine, okay? This song is not genuine.
Spy Hard, more like See Hard.
I gave this a C as well.
I don't want to go out before we at least mention, because I need to talk about the music video for this. The music video is S tier alone because of every Maurice Binderism that they throw in there. That's the guy who did all of the Bond intros that you know and love, and is why the tropes are of the nude silhouettes, the underwater, the slow fade in, the bubbles. They do every gag they could with Binderisms, and it's great.
And you know, Al holds that note.
Yeah, Al does that 20-second long final note, one take, just done. No looping required.
I've been holding this icon for longer than 20 seconds, waiting for Buttface to say a letter.
No, this is top of C tier. If those are the songs it's got to go against.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those C for competent songs that in the face of
I guess
where
you're right.
like the other songs wound up in C for various like boat sinkings and other reasons.
Top of the polkas was what we did this week, but next week is my favorite Weird Al song.
So I've learned both of your favorite Weird Al songs this week. Dan surprised me. Buttface, I saw yours coming. I don't know if either of you could name mine.
I think I'm about ready for a quarter pounder with extra cheese, maybe a side order of onion rings, and don't forget to supersize that. Yeah.
SSD! It works!
I'm beginning to think this whole project was a mistake, and I'm going to go ahead and back out of it now. You guys just let me know when you're done. I'll watch